It's night. You don't know if there will be food tomorrow. You don't know if the weather will hold. You don't know if the group that was seen near the river last week is coming back. And in this world, your brain learns one lesson very early. Not through words, through survival. Anything that can be predicted can be survived. Control is not a personality trait. It's a survival strategy. And your brain never put it down. So why do you still check the door twice before bed? Why does an unplanned day feel like a small threat? Why do you reread the same email 3 times before sending it? Stay with this one, because by the end, you'll understand why letting go might be the hardest thing your brain was ever asked to do. For most of human history, nothing was guaranteed. Not the next meal, not the next season, not even the next day. Early humans lived inside a world governed by chance. Weather they couldn't predict, animals they couldn't tame, neighbors they couldn't always trust. And in that world, uncertainty wasn't uncomfortable. It was dangerous. A person who could read the sky, track an animal's pattern, or sense when a group was about to turn hostile had an edge. Not a guarantee, an edge. And then, around 12,000 years ago, something changed. Humans stopped only following what nature provided. They started planting it, timing it, storing it. Agriculture wasn't just about food. It was the first large-scale attempt to turn chaos into a schedule. Plant here, harvest there, store enough to survive winter. For the first time, humans weren't just reacting to the world, they were trying to control it. It didn't remove uncertainty. Droughts still came, harvests still failed. But it gave people something almost as powerful as safety itself. The feeling of safety. And that feeling turned out to be one of the most important tools the human mind ever built. In the 1970s, a psychologist named Ellen Langer ran a simple experiment. She gave people a lottery ticket. Some picked their own numbers, others were handed a ticket at random. Same odds, exactly the same odds. But the people who chose their own numbers valued their ticket far higher, then were far more reluctant to give it up. Langer called this the illusion of control. The tendency to believe we can influence outcomes that are actually left to chance. It sounds like a flaw, but it isn't one. It's a leftover survival mechanism. The same instinct that once told your ancestors, if I plan, I live. Now look at the opposite side of this coin. Around the same era, another psychologist, Martin Seligman, discovered something darker. When a person or an animal is placed again and again into situations where nothing they do changes the outcome, they eventually stop trying, even when an escape becomes available. He called it learned helplessness. Not because they were lazy, because their brain had learned a devastating lesson. Effort doesn't matter here. And your body reacts to this loss of control the same way it reacts to physical danger. Cortisol rises. Heart rate increases. The nervous system prepares for a threat, even if the threat is just not knowing what happens next. Which means needing control isn't about being uptight. It's your stress system quietly whispering an old message. Predict this or suffer the consequences. Here's where it gets interesting. That instinct never disappeared. It just changed clothes. The manager who rewrites every email their team sends. Not because the work is bad, because uncertainty about the outcome feels unbearable. The person who checks the lock, the stove, the alarm again and again. Each check is a tiny ritual, promising a tiny sense of safety. Even procrastination fits here. Delaying a hard task can feel, strangely, like control, Because as long as you haven't started, you haven't failed yet. And think about the last vacation you overplanned. Every hour scheduled, every restaurant booked in advance. That's not about efficiency. That's the same ancient circuitry, trying to remove uncertainty from a version of life that was supposed to feel free. None of this is a modern weakness. It's an old strategy, running in a world it was never designed for. Somewhere, thousands of years ago, a person stood at the edge of a field they had just planted. They couldn't control the rain. They couldn't control the soil. But they had done what they could. And for the first time, that was almost enough. Almost. Wanting to feel in control is not neurotic. It's the oldest habit your brain owns. It kept your ancestors alive long before it started keeping you up at night. The problem was never the need for control. The problem is not knowing when to stop reaching for it. Some things were never yours to predict. The weather, other people, tomorrow. And maybe the real skill isn't gaining more control. Maybe it's learning to recognize the moment your ancestors never got to experience. The moment where you've done enough. And it's safe to simply wait and see. That's not surrender. That's the one thing your brain, after all this time, still finds hardest to believe.